I'm Elias from Multiversity, and this is Jorge Corona, the artist on Middlewest. So,
thank you.
I guess the first question I have is, we interviewed you last year about this before the book had come out.
Yes.
Now that it's about 10 issues in,
11 just came out. Yeah,
11 just came out.
Yeah.
So I haven't read that one yet.
No.
So now that we're about 10 issues in, 11 issues, how have you gotten a feel for the world?
God, it's changed a lot. Like, I think so, especially like as the story has progressed. Like, we've been trying not to just do the same over and over. So like we keep introducing new stuff, and now I'm actually in the middle of issue 14, and like this third volume is going to be like a complete different setting than what's been shown and like we've been seeing on the previous issues. So like the world just keeps expanding and evolving, and like Scotty has just been introducing like newer things that we kind of talked about it from the get-go, so we knew they were coming, but now we get to show them, and it's really fun to just keep expanding of that.
So you would say that you've probably reached, you're going to be passing that original 18-issue benchmark idea that you had.
I think, yeah, we'll see. I think we're still like we want to tell like I said, like we want to tell Abel's story, and obviously the world of Middlewest is like can be open for a lot of stories, but like Abel's arc has an ending, and then and we want to make sure that we tell it without diluting too much, and then just losing track of what we're there for. So we'll see where we go, but I think we definitely do want to tell wrap up the arc of Abel, just because that's the story that we want to tell. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask Jorge. I'm coming here from the Middlewest.
Okay.
From the Midwest, the real place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you see a lot of fantasy is very stuck in like Central Europe, British imagery, and you guys are pulling like really like deep inspiration from the Midwest. So I just wanted to know like more about your relationship to the American Midwest. And like where some of those images are coming from specifically.
Yeah. Well, a lot obviously comes from like Scotty. That's Scotty's backyard. Like that's where he grew up, and that's what he knows. Obviously, I'm from South America originally, and like the American Midwest has been something that I've most of the time have experienced like through pictures or like movies and like TV, whatever. But so I mean that helped me to kind of like figure out the kind of like the key elements that would make sure that would convey the story. Like the good thing that also like we're doing a fantasy version obviously of the Midwest, so like I could play around that. I obviously but it was good just to like, especially like Scotty, just like before we started working on the book, like we had like conversations and like him telling me what he wanted to see, what he thought was like the key elements that needed to be there to convey basically this story that is very close to him. And it was a lot of research after that, and I love driving like road trips and stuff like that. So driving through the Midwest is a completely different experience, and like it's yeah, exactly. So I pull from that. I pull from like obviously visits and then just a lot of references too. Yeah, but I'm glad that it's working.
Working for me.
Yeah.
So you actually took some trips through the Midwest for the book?
I've done some road trips in the States ever since I started coming here. So. I took from a lot of that. Like I didn't make one specific. Like the only one specific that I did was like when I visited Scotty, and then he's still in the Midwest, so I could see what we were talking about as we were talking about it. And the rest was just like memory from times that I've like driven through. So yeah, that was fun.
Did you also, or did you and Scotty have a few media touchstones that you use to build the book? Because I noticed when we got to the carnivals in issue 5 and 6, it reminded me at least of Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, which is set in the Midwest and has a lot of a similar dark and mysterious tone.
Yeah, Scotty and I think from the get-go, we talked about what our inspiration was coming from, in the sense of like the mood and the feel that we wanted to go for, and like it was a lot of Don Bluth animation, and it was like a lot of like Miyazaki in a way, in the way of storytelling too. So a lot of the visual language came from animation, and obviously there are so many different movies that just come up just in the general like imagery that you have of those kind of places. So there's been a lot, and they've kept changing as we keep going and change settings and stuff like that. So it's been fun.
So what's been going through your heads while writing the current arc? I guess you could kind of call this arc Fathers and Sons.
Yeah.
But specifically kind of the winter setting.
Yes.
What kind of influenced that?
Well, that one actually that was my favorite issue, because it was just a blizzard, so there's nothing better to draw than just nothing. So that was fun, and yeah, this arc is definitely about like the generational aspect of our story, and for that one we mostly wanted to have this surrounded snowstorm that basically became, obviously as you keep going through the issue, you realize how oppressive it is, even though it feels like as a void, but it's an oppressive void kind of thing. So that was mostly what we wanted to do with that issue, like hint a little bit at the personality of the grandfather, and then gearing toward that reveal at the end, and seeing how this place that almost seemed like a safe haven for Abel turn against him. So that was mostly what we wanted to do, especially with the setting in that issue.
We've been talking a little bit about your collaboration with Scotty.
Yeah.
And so I know there are some comic writers who also are artists, but Scotty is probably more famous as an artist than he is as a writer.
Yeah.
When I saw the premise of Middlewest, I was kind of surprised that he was writing it and not drawing it, but then I saw your style and thought it was an excellent fit for the book. But I was wondering, just I've seen other books you've drawn. Do you find yourself drawing differently towards Scotty's art style, or does that affect how you conceive of the way you draw the characters in the worlds?
Yeah, well, for the most of it, I like to make sure that I give enough personality to each book that I'm working on. Like that's if you look back, like Number One with a Bullet, that was the previous book that I did, and Big Trouble in Little China that was coming out like with alongside almost Number One with a Bullet. Those are like styles that if you see them, they're still me, but they were very specific for those books.
Yeah.
And with the good thing about Middlewest was that obviously, yeah, like Scotty's art is so well known. And I've always I follow his career for long before even we started working together. And when we started talking about basically the visual and the graphic personality that we wanted for the book, I knew that I could expand a little bit more into different things that I hadn't done before, because I knew that especially from him I would get the backup and the support because he has gone through that too, and he has especially with Wizard of Oz, obviously that was such a distinct style, and when we were talking about about Middlewest, I was like, I really want to give this this rough kind of finished look, this rough line work, and play with the roughness of the setting and the world. And it was good because from him I could go back and forward, and then we could try different things. So it was really good to the way he affected it. It was, I would say, is it was in allowing me to be a little bit more free and loose with my work, and but on the other side, Scotty from the get-go was like, this is like, obviously I'm writing, art is your responsibility, and I don't like, he wanted me to feel like, you know, that was mine. He didn't want to be like, he said like, listen, if I have notes, I have notes, and obviously like sketches, like obviously we know he can draw, so he can just like, this is what I was thinking of. But that only happened a little bit when we were working on especially Abel, the main character, and it has come up every now and then whenever we're talking about ideas and character design and stuff like that. But for the most part, he's been just like, this is your thing, and I want you to feel as free as possible. So it's been a great collaboration actually working with him, because at the beginning I was terrified, and just because it's like, what am I gonna show you art-wise? But no, he's been nothing but supportive, and really like the response has been great. So I'm happy with where we ended, especially like visually for the book. So yeah, thank you.
I have one more question, and then we have these 5 questions that we're asking every interviewee. Yep, they're going to be kind of similar, but they'll keep you on your toes. So my final question was about that fathers and sons theme that we've really now started to hit upon.
Yeah.
With Abel, with his dad, and with his grandfather.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because this might get into spoilers, are we going to see that relationship with other characters and their parents? But more so, can you talk on kind of the approach to making the family not necessarily feel believable, but making that conflict central and complicated, rather than just, oh, the grandfather sucks, the dad sucks? Because in the beginning, the dad is quite literally a monster.
Oh, yeah.
But now we're kind of peeling back those layers.
Yeah. Yeah, like again, the generational stuff was something that Scotty had planned for the story since the get-go, so we knew where we were going. I think the more we started working with the character and the more Scotty started writing, especially like the father, Dale, it became obvious that obviously he's the antagonist, he's the big antagonist of the book, but it's also we didn't want to make just a villain for villain's sake, and as we keep going, I think the dad, like peeling that person, like you said, like peeling away from the person to the personality of the dad, and seeing like, oh, so this is not just on him, like this comes from way beyond before that, and also it's a generational thing, and it's a cycle that, again, Abel is the one that is also trying to break. Family obviously is a very central theme for the book, and we do see the family dynamic of other characters, but specifically we kind of seen it already with the carnival crowd and stuff like that, and not making sure that we drive through the idea of families, the family that you make too. So for Abel at this point, and especially you're going to see it in this last couple of issues of the second volume, and as the third volume starts, you start seeing how the carnival crew becomes more and more, the family relationships between them, or the family bonds, I will say, between them start being more obvious, and especially with Bobby, who we've seen has grown to feel protective towards Abel, and I really like the dynamic that is established after Max basically banishes Abel out, trying to protect her other family, but that creates it's a complicated issue, and that's what we wanted to show, that it's never that black and white. So it's been good, and Scotty has been killing it with those interpersonal relationships and stuff. So